Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. So let's discuss AWS Transfer Family. This is an easily manage and sharing of your data with simple, secure, scalable file transfer services. I use this service a lot when it comes to using of SFTP environment, FTP environment, or FTPS environment with the clients. So within AWS Transfer Family, we have three sets of protocol available: SFTP, FTPS, and FTP. Now, one of the best part of this particular AWS transfer family is that it is a managed service provided by AWS, which means you don't have to build up an infrastructure, you don't have to maintain your servers, you don't have to maintain the environment. AWS will be managing the scale up of the environment, security something you have to define, and obviously the easy configuration setup for us that what AWS is providing. So let's look up few of the pointers for AWS Transfer Family, and I will dive into the demo section where I will try to show you how you can set up your SFTP environment and how you can connect to the SFTP environment to upload your data to S3 bucket in the backend, and we will see what all options are available over here. So this is easily manage file transfer environment and modernize your transfer workflow within hours by using existing authentication system. So while doing the configuration, I will show you there are like different set of options that you can play around with. You can use your Active Directory managed services. You can use the third party integration vendors as well, or you can use a self-managed service provided by AWS, which works based on the IAM policies, IAM roles basically. It also stores information within Amazon S3 or EFS. Those are the two options available as of now with this particular environment, S3 and EFS, to manage your workflow, to trigger the automated event driven tasks with a fully managed low code service. Also supports up to thousands of concurrent users with access control and quickly scalable to your business to business file transfer for each line of your business user. So you don't have to worry about the scalability factor over here. It supports up to 1000 concurrent users. It's more than that. That's just a number. Also meet up your security requirement with the data encryption. It can be defined at the public endpoint. It can be defined within your VPC where you can control your security features. Plus FIPS endpoints are available, compliance certification, and much more. So that's basically AWS Transfer Family brings you within AWS, how it works. So on the client side, obviously you have to do the configuration, choose the protocol. So while doing the configuration, while doing the setup of your SFTP, FTP or FTPS environment, you have to create a server, which we call a managed server from AWS that will hold your SFTP, FTPS or FTP environment. And when you try to upload, or let's say client is trying to upload a file, it will go to S3 bucket in the backend or EFS, depend upon what kind of scenario or what kind of service you are picking up to store your files, right? And finally, you can do the content distribution. You can restrict the permission from one user to another user. You can do analysis, you can do processing, you can do much more with all these services in the backend, because once your data is in S3, once your data is in EFS, you can integrate the third party or third service from AWS to analyze your data, to go into the archival state, content distribution, and all those stuffs happen with this particular family section. So that's basically AWS Transfer Family is all about. Now let's dive into the practical demo. So that's my AWS management console. I'm into migration and transfer section, which is AWS Transfer Family. Either you can search AWS Transfer Family in the search section or go to migration and transfer. You will find the Transfer Family service over here as well. This is a fully managed support for SFTP, FTPS and FTP, as I said. Now, in order to make it work, you have to choose a protocol as is mentioned, then map your host name. You can set it to default as well, set your user, the client you want to access it, and select the S3 bucket or EFS in the backend where you want to store or upload the data. I will be going to use S3 bucket, not EFS. And again, remember guys, within any cloud vendor, if one service has to interact with another service, there has to be a permission given from one service to another service. Like AWS Transfer Family has to interact with S3, then I have to give permission to access the S3 bucket or the desired EFS file system. This is the pricing model over here. The endpoint that we create cost us around 30 cents per protocol per hour, and data upload and download is 0.04 per protocol per gig. So based upon your requirement, go with this particular model. Again, remember, if you think the on-premises system or the server system that you create, you manage, or you install SFTP, FTPS or FTP service, which is costing very less as compared to this managed service, then go with that solution. I'm trying to show you this is a managed service. You don't have to worry about the underlying hardware. You don't have to maintain, you don't have to manage. You just have to pay for the endpoint and data upload and download. Obviously, we have to pay for that. Now, in order to create SFTP environment or FTPS or FTP, we have to click on create server. Here we have three options. One is SFTP, which is file transfer over secure shell. Then FTPS, this requires a TLS encryption. I cannot show you that because I don't have any certificate with me. And FTP, which is for unencrypted file transfer protocol. So let's do the SFTP part, and rest something, if you have the certificate, then please go with that. Next, now here we have three options for the identity provider. Service manage, which is basically create and manage user within the service by AWS. You can use AWS directory service as well for the authentication of your managed AD users, or you can use the custom identity provider. Mostly it's supported by Lambda or API gateway. Now I'm going to use the default one, which is service manage. Click on next. Now again, two type of endpoint we have. One is publicly accessible over the internet. One is VPC hosted. Now we can go with both the option. When it comes to publicly accessible, you cannot control the security posture over here. But when it goes to the VPC hosted section, yes, you can control the security section. So I'm going to use the VPC hosted one just to make it more secure with internet facing. And custom hostname, again, you can use the Route 53 DNS alias or other DNS if you already have, or for this, I don't have Route 53 or any other aliases. So obviously I'm going with the none. Going with the internet facing, I have to select my VPC. I believe this is the one. And to make it, let's say, highly available in nature, you can select two subnet. I'm going with the one subnet over here and associating an elastic IP. So these are the public subnets because I'm creating an internet facing endpoint. I don't have something in 1B, but I guess I have something in, or let it be. I'll go with only one availability zone because I don't remember exactly, or we can check actually. Let's go to VPC, our famous networking service. Now let's see, 6.8, right? Let me go to VPC over here. This is the one which I'm selecting. Go to subnet, search for this VPC. Now we have to select public subnet because we are creating an internet facing endpoint. So I have selected DB. What is DB? Ending with DB. This is public subnet 1. And let's select public subnet 2, which is in, I believe this is in what? 1B. Perfect. So let's make it highly available in nature. Select this. Oh, sorry. 0D. I believe that's the one. Let me check. 0D. Yes. And we'll give another elastic IP. Why we use elastic IP? Because most of the customer ask for whitelisting your endpoint, right, into their firewall. So in that case, it's better to give them a static IP address, so it will never going to be changed. These are my elastic IP addresses. Now you can control your security groups over here because we are constructing everything within our own VPC. Select whether the endpoint should comply with the Federal Information Processing Standard, FIPS. So if you want, you can enable it. If you don't want, you can disable it. So for this tutorial, let's enable this endpoint as well. Now here are two options to choose a domain: Amazon S3 to store the files within the bucket, or EFS. As I said earlier, I'm going to use S3 because I don't have any EFS created. So click next. Here, as I said, the CloudWatch logging. One way of logging what kind of SFTP environment is creating a log. Let's send those logs to CloudWatch. I'm going to create a new role. I guess I don't have any existing role created for that. Here are the cryptographic algorithm. That's the only one we have for FIPS. So let's leave that. Server host key, I'm not going with the server host key, and let's keep everything as default. You can create your own workflow. So workflows are basically that AWS Transfer Family should run all the files on all the files uploaded via this particular server or not. Click next, and this is the review section. Click on create server. Now the creation part will take somewhere around 2 to 3 minutes. I'm going to have this video pause for 2 to 3 minutes. Once my server is available, I will resume it back. Endpoint is up and running. As you can see, the state is online. We have the server ID. We don't have any user. We have to add a user. Users are basically the client who want to access your SFTP environment. Endpoint type is VPC and domain is S3 in the backend. Click on the link, and here you can see protocol is SFTP, identity provider is service managed, whatever option we have selected. And this is the endpoint that we have to use to connect to this particular SFTP environment. FIPS is enabled. These are the two availability zones. Here we have to add a user, and you can see the additional details and everything is listed over here with the server host key. By default, it's already added because we have left that part as blank, right? Now, in order to add user, what we have to do, click on add user. Now, let's give this user as test SFTP. I already have created a role called SFTP, and let me show you the role as well. Let me open up IAM, because in order to users to interact with these services, we have to create or we have to give permissions, right? So based upon the role, which is the best part of controlling your security, it's always preferred to use role. So click on SFTP. Now here I'm giving as Amazon S3 full access. We can restrict on the bucket level which bucket you want to interact with the user. I will share the link of the Amazon documentation in the description section, so you can deep dive on those policies as well. The main part is the trust relationship. Here the service is transfer.amazonaws.com. That is very important, guys. The trust has to be made on this particular service. Otherwise, it will not work. Your client will not be able to interact with SFTP environment if you don't have this trust relationship created over here. Now go back to AWS Transfer. Policy, select the IAM or auto generate the policy. Now here you will get an option to select your bucket. So let me select this one. This is my own bucket. This will create a home directory as test SFTP. You can restrict this. Also, you will get all the information when home directory is set to restricted. Users will not be able to access anything outside of that folder. So for example, within my S3 bucket, let me show you the S3 bucket as well. I have multiple data over here. So if I make it as restricted, that user will not be able to see anything over here. Like they cannot see anything of all these files. So let's make it more restrictive. Obviously, SSH public key. Now this is very important because that it's a combination of public and a private key that user will going to get interacted with. Now in order to create a public key and paste it over here, what we have to do, we have to go to our terminal and let's create a key with the help of tool called SSH keygen, then -p, no password, no encryption, and -f, and we will give this name as test SFTP, enter. Okay, so the key has been generated. It's been test SFTP pub and private. So let me check ls. As you can see, we have a public key, we have a private key, right? Now let's do a cat to test-sftp.pub. This is the public key that we have to copy and paste it over here. So let me grab from here. That's my public key, copy, paste it and click add. Okay. So as you can see, test SFTP user has been added, but with a restricted home directory. So within my S3 bucket, I cannot go beyond, or I cannot see beyond this particular folder, because it will create a folder as well. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let me refresh this bucket. As of now, we don't have anything, right? Okay, let's connect our SFTP environment. So the command is sftp-i, then we have to call a key, that what we have created, which is test SFTP, and after that we have to call test SFTP at, let me copy the endpoint of SFTP, copy, paste, enter. So if everything is correct, then we will be able to connect to our SFTP environment. So as you can see, permanently added this endpoint, and finally we are connected to SFTP. So if you do LLS, then we have three files basically: PEM, SFTP, private and public. Now, in order to upload, so let me go to S3 bucket first, refresh. We don't have it yet. Now let me do input, and let's do copy, paste, input this file. As you can see, uploading this to my S3 bucket, it's all done. Let me refresh. Here we go. We have test SFTP folder, and we have this file uploaded over here. Let me try other file, which is public key, input, paste. The same one is getting uploaded. It's done. Let's refresh this, which means now, as you can see, the both files are added over, or both files are uploaded to this bucket, which means our client is able to authenticate and able to upload the file to our SFTP environment in the backend to the S3 bucket. So that's how the SFTP environment, the configuration works with AWS Transfer Family. We have the same concept for FTP or FTPS. Only the problem over here is, for me to show you the demo, I don't have a certificate, so I cannot go with FTPS. And with FTP, I cannot go with managed services because it requires us to disable the FTPS or FTP. Then we can use either Active Directory service or a custom identity provider, which is Lambda or API gateway. I don't have those created. So that's why I showed you the concept on how SFTP work on the AWS Transfer Family. One of the important concept, again, since I created the public key, I inserted that public key for the key authentication mechanism. Let's go back to our presentation, and that's how basically the mechanism is happening for the authentication. So in this environment, the managed services, we create users for client. Also, we create a key pair for them, for those users, right? Only then one user will be segregated from another user. Let's say, for example, you are using a shared bucket. Within a shared bucket, you have multiple customers, and every customer will get their own data, right? Own bucket. So in that case, one customer cannot see a data of other customer, because that's a security breach. That's why we create different or dedicated user for all those customers with a separate key. Now on the left hand side, you can see we have an SFTP client, which is getting communicated with SFTP server on the right hand side with the help of private and public key authentication mechanism. That channel is very important because the data transfer which is happening is all encrypted using the mechanism of private and public key. So that's how this all encrypted data transfer is happening with AWS Transfer Family SFTP managed services. We go back to AWS Management Console again. Here I want to show you one more important factor, which is your logs, because we are sending all the activity to our CloudWatch. So click on View Logs. This will navigate you to the CloudWatch environment. and here you will see what kind of activity is happening, right? Now the last one was like we uploaded this file, this is the byte, this is successful, then obviously we uploaded the pub file. So all activity cloud for devops.pem key we have uploaded, this is the byte. So we are getting everything logged within CloudWatch as well. So I hope this clears a lot in terms of the concept of using AWS Transfer Family, SFTP, and rest of the other concept as well. I would suggest you try the SFTP first and go with the FTP next. If you are very good with writing up the Lambda function, if you're good with the AWS API gateway, just try with that and just place out a comment in comment section if you're facing any issue. I'll be there to help you. Have a nice day. Bye bye.